Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
Our goal here is pretty straightforward. We take some source material, could be anything really, and we pull out the key insights for you, our listener.
Helping you, the learner, make sense of it all.
Exactly. And today we've got a source that's, well, it's definitely unique. We're aiming to understand a really complex claim about technology and personal creativity.
Yeah, the source for this deep dive is an audio recording. It's from February 17th, 2018, and it's titled Gang Stalkers Create Programs to Copy You and Steal Your Creativity as a Broadcast.mp3.
And it features someone named Kevin Christian.
That's right.
Now, just so you know, right off the bat, the ideas in this recording are pretty unconventional.
Very much so.
Our job here isn't to judge, true or false. It's really just to get inside the recording itself and understand what Kevin Christian is actually saying.
Okay, so where do we start? The core claim seems to revolve around something he calls remote neural monitoring.
Yeah, let's unpack that. What does he mean by that, according to the recording?
Well, Kevin Christian believes he's a target of this, remote neural monitoring. And in his view, it involves gang stalkers using specific tech. He mentions broadcast machines and, get this, mind control headsets. The idea is they're remotely watching and maybe even interacting with his thoughts, his actions, from a distance.
Okay, so remote observation and maybe influence. And from there, he makes this really specific assertion, doesn't he?
He does. He thinks these gang stalkers are actually creating what he calls programs.
Programs based on him.
Based on his physical movements. He talks specifically about his liquid flow style of dancing.
Like they're capturing his dance style digitally.
That seems to be the idea. And he has a sort of detailed picture of how this happens or how he believes it happens.
How does he explain that part?
He says it involves monitoring his movements, right? And then using what he calls virtual devices.
Virtual devices.
Yeah, combined with holographic broadcasts. So the process he describes is watch his physical expression, translate it using these virtual tools, and then project it, replicate it using holograms.
Wow. Okay. And this brings us right to the creativity aspect. He feels like this whole process is basically stealing his creative work.
Yes, absolutely. He sounds really frustrated in the recording, saying these gang stalkers are kind of fighting over who gets to use his program.
The program made from his movements.
Exactly. The one that came from his unique style. It definitely raises some interesting questions about owning a style, doesn't it? If it could hypothetically be copied like that.
Yeah, someone could just replicate your unique way of moving.
And he says, his original dance moves are being copied and then used by other people, but within these holographic broadcasts.
So not just observed, but actually performed by others virtually.
That's how he seems to see it. It really taps into that modern sort of digital anxiety, about copying and who owns what online or in digital spaces.
And it's not just dance, right? He mentioned other things.
Right. He does say it extends to other kinds of creativity. He mentions music as well.
So the implication is that any unique thing he creates could be captured and used in this way.
That seems to be his fear.
Yeah. Okay, sticking with the holograms for a second, he makes another pretty wild claim about them.
He does. He claims that when he's physically present, like a live human, as he puts it, he can actually mind control these holographic projections, the ones the gang stalkers supposedly create.
Mind control them.
He describes influencing their movements, making them interact with him in his physical space.
And he even claims physical interaction. I thought holograms were just light.
Well, that's what's striking. He says he feels tangible sensations, things like tension and resistance when he interacts with these broadcasts.
Tension from a hologram. That's quite a description.
It really is. Paints a vivid picture.
Now, does he give any context? Like, why does he think this is happening to him?
He does offer his perspective on that. He connects it to a past relationship, his ex-girlfriend's alleged motivations. He goes into some specific personal details in the audio.
And he names names, doesn't he?
Yes, he mentions several individuals, Marcus, Robert Lackey, Black James, Ricky Patton.
And accuses them of specific things.
Pretty serious accusations, including broadcasting attacks onto his physical body.
Like physically harming him remotely.
That's the claim. He specifically mentions targeting his teeth and gums. He even gives an address 732A Howard Circle related to these alleged events.
Right, and didn't he mention something about tasting electricity?
Yeah, he attributes that sensation to Marcus's alleged actions, tasting electricity in his mouth.
So what's his goal in sharing all this, according to him?
Well, he says his main reason is exposure. to expose this technology he believes exists and what he calls the activities of these gang stalkers.
Okay.
But interestingly, he also draws a line. He seems to think that maybe lots of people are subject to neuromonitoring, but that they aren't necessarily involved in this sort of active targeting, the gang stalking that he describes happening to him.
So a distinction between passive monitoring and active harassment, in his view.
Seems that way. And despite how specific and, frankly, unusual his claims are, he does mention having a growing audience, people interested in his ideas.
Suggesting maybe these themes resonate with some people, however niche they might seem.
Perhaps, yeah. He also includes some concrete details, references.
Like what?
Well, he mentions being at a sold-out show for an artist named Leah Culver,
Okay.
and he references YouTube channels, other individuals, someone he just calls Marcus, what's his name, also Blueprint ET, and the Dragon House guys.
Are these related to the gang stalking claims?
It's not always crystal clear how they connect directly to the core claims, but they give you a sense of his world, his points of reference, you know?
Right. And he described the holograms more, didn't he? Beyond just feeling tension.
He did. He gives these descriptions like a spinning frisbee thing or these things he first called cartwheels that apparently show up and interact.
Interact with his physical environment.
From his perspective, yes. He also brings up electromagnetic frequencies, EMF.
How does that fit in?
He talks about EMF making the interactions feel more real, like he can play with the EMF, like it's physically there sometimes.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What's the absolute core narrative here?
All right, so the core is Kevin Christian believes he's under remote neural monitoring by gang stalkers.
Using tech like broadcast machines and headsets.
Right, and this tech is supposedly used to create programs based on his unique movements, especially his dancing.
Which he experiences as theft.
Yeah.
Theft of his creativity.
Yes, and this theft manifests through holographic replication, which others then allegedly use.
And on top of that, he claims he can interact with, even mind control, these holograms to some extent.
That's the essence of his narrative in this specific recording.
And we have to stress again, these are the claims as presented in the source, this one audio file.
Exactly. It's a very personal account, his understanding of his experiences back in 2018 when it was recorded.
And like we said at the start, our goal wasn't to validate or debunk any of this.
No, just to understand what's in the recording, to do that deep dive into the narrative itself. We've laid out the key pieces as he articulated them.
So for you listening, for you, the learner, here's maybe something to chew on.
Yeah.
We live in this super digital age, right? Technology is everywhere. And sometimes even claims that sound really, really out there, like these ones, might echo some deeper anxieties we all have. About, who we are online, who owns our ideas, our creativity, even our movements, what's real.
Yeah, it's a fascinating intersection, even if you set aside the specifics of Kevin Christian's account.
Right.
What does it make you think about technology, identity, and creativity today? Where are those lines drawn or blurred in our increasingly digital existence? Something to consider.